Grand Rising, Hotep family. Hotep. As you come in, make sure you tell me the city and state that you're coming from or that you're tuning in from. And as always, give me a second so that I can post to my other social media platforms. But Grand Rising, okay. hmm Yeah. So, what have you learned from Blueprint Print for Black Power thus far? What other books would you like for me to read, or other topics would you like for me to discuss? If you're just joining now, state your name, the city you tuning in from. Um, yeah. What else? How was your day today? My day was great. I'm tired. I did a little moving job, but I got work to do. I got a lot of work to do, so I can't even afford to be tired till I get some of it done. You know, gotta keep pushing, man. Yep. If you're just coming in, state your name and the city that you're tuning in from, and I definitely appreciate you. Please hit the like, the share, the subscribe. You know what I mean? There's free resources in the description. Go ahead and check that out. Hopefully, if you can take advantage of it, you do. Um, what else? Yeah, like I said, you're gonna hear that noise all of the time. And I'll be right with you. We're gonna hop right in. Remember, yesterday we was talking about the black church and this breakdown of what was going on. And today he's going to continue with the black church, but he also going to get into the NOI as well as the spirit of war. Mhm. I can't wait to see. I've been waiting all day. And I mean, I've been waiting all day. Yeah, so if you're tuning in, please tell me your name, the city you tuning in from. If you want to email me, you can go to my channel. Hopefully you subscribe to help me, you know what I mean, move along the algorithm so that more things that I do can be shown to more people that are interested in like-minded like you. What else? I gotta go here first. Let's go to my videos. Do I got a live right now? I do. But I guess I got to go all the way over to this other account and post it like that because they messing with me right now. I don't really get it. You know? I really don't. I don't get it at all. What post was just shared? Okay, that's cool, but that's not the post I was looking for. This is the post I was looking for. So, what city are you tuning out from? Tuning in from? Where are you? Um, Not where are you? What city are you tuning in from? Are there any topics or books that you would like me to read once we complete Blueprint for Black Power, or any of the books that I've read in the past that you may want me to read again? You can email me. My information or my email address at the least is in the description on my channel. What else? Also, under the description, there are free resources, and if you haven't taken advantage of them, please take advantage of them. You know, we all need a little help, and sometimes a little help goes a long way, and I mean it. Yep, I'll be right with y'all real soon. Yep, just one more. Give me a second. I'm almost there. Almost there. I'm not super tech savvy. I'm learning to be. Yeah. All right. Got that. All right. 1 second. I just want to make sure. Well, actually, can I just go here? Okay. So, without further ado, let's get into part 10 of my favorite teacher's book, Blueprint for Black Power. I'm telling you, man, this is one of the best reads you'll ever read. And it's one of the y'all know he put 600,000, not just him himself, him and his team, the colleagues, everyone that he shouted out in the acknowledgments, and those that we might not have heard of. There was at least 600,000 plus dollars put into the research for this. And what's really interesting is I believe he passed in 95. And I could be wrong. It might have been 94, it might have been 96. I don't remember. But what I do know is that what he's saying right now still stands true today. The numbers may be a little lower, a little higher, but it stands true today. So let's get it in. The Black Church and the Myth of Individualism. In addition to accepting, inculcating, and misleading the African American community with its white racist tainted religious theology and ideology, the Black church establishment, along with its bourgeois class retainers, addicts, the community, the Black church establishment, along with its bourgeois, I really don't know how to pronounce that, Bourgeois. I believe it's bourgeois. How would you say it? Yeah, I can hear you.
I would say boys why. But it's the same.
Why would it be bourgeois? It's B-U-R-G. B-U-R-G-E-O-S. I-S, I think. B-O-U-R-G-E-O-I-S. Bourgeois. Bourgeois class retainer addicts the community to an ever more socially poisonous political ideology, the myth of individualism. I'm going to read it again because I know I stuttered over it. And over that word, don't hold me to it. Charge it to my mind, not my heart. In addition to accepting, inculcating, and misleading the African American community with its white racist tainted religious theology and ideology, the Black church establishment, along with its bourgeois class retainers, addicts, the community. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading it completely wrong. In addition to accepting, inculcate, but I am tired, y'all. So that's the reason why it's going down like that. I've been working heavy at night on a study tip. I haven't getting much rest. My mind running at 1,000,000 miles an hour at 186,000 miles per second. You know what I mean? In addition to accepting, inculcating, and misleading the African American community with its white, racist, tainted religious theology and ideology, the Black church establishment, along with its bourgeois class retainers, addicts the community to an ever more socially poisonous political ideology, the myth of individualism. The wholesale adoption and communal promulgation by Black church and non-church leadership of the mythologies of laissez-faire, Laissez hyphenated FAIRE, capitalism, unrestrained individualism, self-centered, self-serving, narcissistic, competitive, self-promotion, and careerism as the cultural foundations of the African American community have been and is greatly responsible for its disempowerment and social underdevelopment. European American cultural, economic, and political mythologies are designed to maintain white domination and facilitate the white political economic exploitation of the African American community. This accords with the political ends of white American theological mythologies. The crude myth of individualism propagated in the Black America community includes the idiotic contention that a people, a nation, can achieve its holistic social and economic goals as the result of the self-centered, self-interested, self-aggrandizing, competitive pursuit of material and non-material advantages by each individual in competition with all other individuals. These self-elevating advantages are to be energetically, single-mindedly pursued without regard for their injurious, interpersonal, and antisocial effects on others. The right to such pursuit is an article of faith and considered to be inalienable. The individual is perceived as independent of and opposed to his community, and sacrifice of individual pursuits to communal ends is perceived as an unlawful usurpation of basic human and civil rights, as an imposition on individual liberty. The building of the United States, its ability to support individual freedom and self-realization, its evolution as a world economic, military, and cultural power center, is not the result of the independent individual pursuit of advantages, even though it may appear so, but it is the result of socially organized efforts. White ethnocentrism, racism, social cooperation, mutual aid, socially shared values and attitudes, constraints and restrictions on individual expression and liberties, governmental grants, supports, subsidies, regulations, protections, institutional rules and practices, as well as all types of binding social relations and arrangements. We cannot separate individual motivation and self-realization from its social nexus or matrix. For as Michael Mann contends, the pursuit of almost all motivational drives, our needs and goals, involves human beings in external relations with nature and other human beings. Human goals require both intervention in nature, a material life in the widest sense, and social cooperation. It is difficult to imagine any of our pursuits or satisfactions occurring without these. Thus, the characteristics of nature and the characteristics of social relations become relevant to and may indeed structure individual motivations. Individual development, success, and fulfillment are social products. They are made possible by and are the product of social relations and organizations. The nature, organization, and goals of individual self-definition reflect social experience, organization, shared social ideas and values, social, institutional, and opportunity structures, all of which facilitate or inhibit individuals, their formation, structure, and general orientation. Individual success and accomplishment and failure only take on meaning if they occur within a definable social system. White America, its propaganda regarding individualism, notwithstanding, is a nation or community built on social interdependence and cooperation. This is clearly delineated by anthropologist David Mayberry Lewis, who contends, in the modern world, we shroud our interdependency in an ideology of independence. We focus on individuals going it alone in the economic sphere rather than persons interconnected in the social sphere. Recall that in the case of white moral preachments to the Black community relative to expressions of brotherly love, self-sacrifice, etc., where among white such sentiments are to be expressed only within the limits of the race and not toward outsiders. Their expression among Blacks instead are essentially directed toward outsiders, especially whites. White political preachments about individual freedom, open markets, and free trade, while denying such rights and privileges to Blacks and granting them to themselves, are truly designed to facilitate the exploitation of the Black community by white corporate establishment. White defined individualism as propagated and understood within the contextual reality of the Black community, a reality whose social transformation cries out for collective sentiments and action, instills in Blacks a hunger for personal aggrandizement and competitiveness, which tends to negate or impair their human capabilities for collective action and cooperative economics, which together would empower the Black community to achieve liberation and prosperity. The strengthening of intragroup ties and obligations, collective identity and action in the Black community is neither anti-individualistic, nor does it deny the achievement of individual distinction and fulfillment within the community or in the larger world. In fact, these factors motivate Black individualism to a greater degree than is presently the case, where Blacks are stereotyped and permitted relatively little individual, non-stereotypical recognition and freedom. As stated by Ralston, the highest meaning of the social group is to foster the development of individual potential, for the community's own well-being depends on it. A group must empower itself as a whole if it is to empower its individual members. We agree with Michael Lewis when he argues that American culture is first and foremost a culture of inequality. It is a culture characterized by massive class and ethnic differences in wealth, power, privilege, prestige, and quality of life. The ideology of American individualism principally functions to justify and rationalize white America's culture or inequality. Lewis explains it in the following manner. The emergence of this individualistic moral sensibility is of considerable significance, for as we shall see, it has become central to the existence of the American culture of inequality, an interpretation of unequal outcomes given the assumption of equal chances. It is a sensibility that virtually ignores the impact of social structure upon personal achievement and mobility. According to this sensibility, it is the individual alone who is socially significant, who determines what his or her contribution to the commonwealth will be, and who is therefore responsible for the degree of personal success achieved. Society is seen as benign, offering up opportunities and waiting to be enriched by those who have the will and the capacity to make productive use of them. The sensibility, therefore, removes inequality of personal prerequisites from the category of social conditions in need of reform. If such inequality is seen as the product of traditional restrictions on opportunity, it becomes a target for social reformers to whom it is the arbitrary and unjust outcome of a reactionary system. If, however, such inequality is simply an indication of differentials in a productive exertion of individuals, free to exercise their ambitions and talents to the fullest, then the presumption of social arbitraries cannot be sustained, and only the individual can be held accountable for the state of his or her well-being. If inequality exists, it is nothing more than a reflection of different personal qualities. As Lewis further notes, in a reality such a system as the racist modern American capitalist system, in reality, such a system limits the success of us can achieve, even as the individual as central sensibility encourages us to believe otherwise. Inspired by American individualism, white and black Americans alike are encouraged and conditioned to believe that opportunity is virtually unlimited and that the extent of one's success or failure depends solely upon the quality of one's efforts. Thus, when we do not succeed, when we are impoverished and powerless, we are more likely to believe that we lack the ability or character to succeed than to believe that we have been victimized by the requisites of American race and class-based capitalism. Believing uncritically in American individualism, African Americans, reviewing their relative lack of success and powerlessness in white American dominated society, falsely conclude that their problem is not an opportunity structure which they perceive as constraining, but is rather an insidious intimation of personal and social, cultural, ethnic inadequacy, a sense that lacking the success, wealth, and power they have aspired to are thereby lacking in worth. Thus is the ideological trap sprung. The uncritical community as a whole, and African Americans as individuals in the face of obvious personal and communal powerlessness, motivates their placing themselves in social and psychological jeopardy. Their obvious problems, failures, and powerlessness, in the face of their unqualified belief in American individualism, leads African Americans to self-defamation, self-abnegation, self-blame, self-alienation, self-hatred, loss of self-confidence, self-esteem, and a lowering of aspirations. These prevalent feelings are typically correlated with the African American culture of poverty and powerlessness. These traits and tendencies, generated and bred into African Americans by European, American, African, American power relations are made to appear as intrinsic, inherent African traits and the true causes of their personal and communal powerlessness by Eurocentric social scientific propaganda. If the African American community is to successfully counteract socialization for subordination, powerlessness, and poverty by the dominant European American community, then it must oppose white power, rationalized by the ideology of Eurocentric individualism, with black power, rationalized by the ideology of Afrocentric communalism. The culture of inequality of necessity, in order to establish its preeminence as a culture in contrast with other cultures or subcultures, generates and sustains the subordination, poverty, and powerlessness of the other cultures and subcultures. Ironically, the ideology of American individualism with which the wealthy and powerful European American community indoctrinates the subordinate African American community is neither really accepted nor practiced by that dominant community, especially its ruling elite. Neither does this class actually accept or practice the ideology of individualistic free market capitalism into which it so skillfully socializes its lower classes in the African American community. For the implicit acceptance and extreme practice of these ideologies and individually isolating, overly competitive, and communal divisive and disunifying, their overemphasis is therefore both communally and individually impoverishing and disempowering. That is the reason they are foisted on the African American community. The abiding characteristics of the culture of wealth and power and of the ruling elite are these: 1, class, community, and/or ethnic consciousness; 2, wealth; 3, control of social, political, and other important institutions necessary for reaching group goals and realizing group values; 4, control of or effective influence on the government, its agencies, policies, and operations necessary for achieving group interests; 5, the founding and funding of hierarchical and socially and institutionally appropriate organizations necessary to achieve group power and security; 6, the availability of high quality and skilled, imaginative, and creative human resources; 7, a set of social relations, arrangements, and attitudes which facilitate intragroup social unity, identity, acceptance, cooperativeness, and exclusiveness relative to outgroups; 8, control of community resources, socialization, educational and training institutions wherein group members and future group leaders are developed and oriented; 9, an ideology of group superiority or worthiness and the overwhelming desire to be free and independent, a drive for hegemony, hegemony, control of superior 10, control of superior coercive physical forces, important human intellectual, physical, and economic resources with a willingness to fully and effectively use them to achieve and defend group interests. The individual who is a member of the culture of wealth and power with a bit of ambition and ability is markedly more likely to realize his aspirations than is an individual who is a member of the culture of poverty and powerlessness despite an abundance of ambition and ability. For the social, institutional, and economic advantages provided by the social matrix of the culture of wealth and power greatly enhances the probabilities of success for those who are positioned in and supported by that matrix. The contextual nature of middle and upper class individuals and group success, the social matrix which makes such success possible, are conveniently ignored by Eurocentric social scientific propaganda. All success is attributed to drives, values, and other characteristics supposedly inherently possessed and spontaneously expressed by fortunate individuals and or groups. This is done to obscure from the powerless and social failures the fact that both individual and group power and success are fundamentally communal and organizational in nature, are founded on the possession of a group of consciousness, an appropriate set of social relations and organization, and group control over some important basic human and material resources. If the African American community is to gain its liberation and independence, it is to achieve wealth and power, it must socialize its collective personality and character to internalize and express the modal collective personality and character of an African-centered culture of wealth and power. Let's get to the Nation of Islam. In stark contrast to the Black church as a religion and cultural power center stands the Black Muslims or the Black Nation of Islam, especially when under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Salute. His born day was just a couple of days ago. Grand rising to the ancestor. Paradoxically, the nation as a religious cultural institution and the psychosocial outcomes which flow from its unique theological, ideological infrastructure resemble those of the white church far more than those of the Black church. Like white Christianity, Black Islam is a religion and culture which serves a people, not a religion which the people serve, as is the case for the Black church. The God of Black Islam has a special relationship with the Black nation exclusive of other racial groups. He, in a rather special way, is their God, a God who has provided them with a special mission, a manifest destiny. This special relationship with God, the special mission assigned to them by their God, the unorthodox and unique religio-historical, mytho-ideological system which undergirds that relationship and mission, imbues the true believers with feelings of specialness or superiority. They do not perceive themselves to be footstools of other peoples by divine decree, as is the case with many Black Christians. They are not to be sacrificial lambs in the interest of other peoples or in the name of some foreign nation of universal brotherly love. Others outside the nation, particularly whites, are to be rejected as models of emulation, are not to be targeted for racial assimilation or integration. White power and domination are to be subdued, not to be worshipped. The Nation of Islam is not a copycat imitation of Orthodox, Arabized Semitic Islam, and therefore does not rely on outside Islamic authorities or theologians to validate its authenticity, and by their agency subvert it to their interests, and does not seek the acceptance by outside co-religionists as its central goal for raison d'etre, R-A-I-S-O-N-D'-E-T-R-E. What does that tell me what it is? Its theology, though in good part borrowed from Orthodox sources, has been significantly Africanized and is therefore uniquely its own creation and is therefore instrumental in advancing the exclusive interests of the nation and its Black members. More than a religious institution, the Nation of Islam is a full-fledged Black culture, a nation within a nation, for it includes all the major institutions which define a people as having a culture, a group identity and a name, a religious institution unique to themselves, family and economic institutions, a military or paramilitary establishment, a distinct system of ethics, mores, folkways, and values, distinct modes of dress, distinct culinary and dietary styles, a system of production and resource ownership and development. The nation is patriarchal in leadership and organization, meaning that its males have developed ways and means of intragroup cooperation and organization which permit them to act on coherent, cohesive, and collective terms. The nation presents a masculine face to the world of outsiders and relates to them on masculine terms of equality and power. As a consequence of its self-definition and self-determination, Black Islam, like white Christianity, empowers its adherents, provides them with high self-esteem, self-confidence, a sense of high intellectual moral superiority, motivates a drive toward and a sense of self-control, control of environment, self-sufficiency, and independence, justifies and provides the means for material enrichment, producing desirable and tangible results here on earth as against pie in the sky, provides a rationale for race-first self-centeredness, and emphasizes the fact that brotherly love, self-sacrifice, integration, assimilation, and the like must occur first within the nation of Black people prior to their application to outsiders. This orientation strikingly contrasts with that of the Black church. By means of this and other related orientations, cultural and moral ideas, the Nation of Islam has had and currently has a major impact on the consciousness of the African American community and has garnered a grudging and often resentful respect from some prominent leaders of the Black church and the assimilationist Black leadership and their followers. The nation has demonstrated entrepreneurial drive and provided a model for African American economic development. We must hasten to notify our readers that we are not herein proselytizing for the Nation of Islam. We merely use it as an example of a Black-centered organization and of the cultural, psychosocial, socioeconomic, and empowerment outcomes which can devolve from organizations whose founding ideology is Black or African-centered in context compared to those whose ideology is white or European-centered or centered around outside ethnic group philosophies, ideologies, cultures, and religions. We are fully aware of the influence of other Black or African-centered organizations or movements, such as that led by Marcus Messiah Garvey, the Most Honorable, the precursor of the Nation of Islam, in a number of very important ways. The key ingredients which define the Nation of Islam's and its socioeconomic, sociocultural outcomes influence and power potential can be utilized by other Black organizations and the Black community as a whole to gain power, liberation, independence, and respect without converting to Islam as a religion. These include an African-centered identity and consciousness, African-centered ideological systems based on a thorough knowledge of and admiration for African-centered, race-first educational and economic institutions and relations, and African-centered do-for-self orientation, African-centered manhood, womanhood, familyhood, training, and institution building, African-centered sense of high self-esteem, self-confidence, self-love, self-assertiveness, expressive creative intelligence, values, and behavior. Whatever the religious, political, or cultural foundation of a group of African people, however borrowed or synthesized their guiding ideologies and principles may be, to work for African peoples, if not, what would be the point of adopting them? They must be thoroughly and practically Africanized. Otherwise, they will become the facilitators of the exploitation, manipulation, if not the domination of African peoples by outsiders and their enemies. And lastly, the spirit of war. It is important to note that the Nation of Islam is organized, as its name implies, as a permanent nation state. And like a nation state, it exists within a more or less well-defined border or territory and is governed by a recognized leadership establishment, which makes and enforces rules of conduct. State societies also develop and organize and train military or paramilitary establishment for offensive and defensive purposes. It should also be noted that the nation and white Christian church share in common an assertive, warlike, or martial tradition, a tradition of making war against their enemies or defending themselves against their enemies by force of arms. The tradition of jihad permeates the Nation of Islam as much as the warrior and warlike European tribal traditions and Christian soldierly traditions permeate the white Christian church and European Christendom as a whole. The Black Muslim God, just as his white counterpart, easily assumes the aspects of a god of war, or at least approves of war in the interest of his adherents. In this light, it is interesting to note that the study of war strategy and practice of war, the codification and expostulation of war, have held a long and honored place in the annals of the European and Asian groups who socioeconomically and politico-economically occupy and exploit the African American community and the Pan-African community worldwide. The Black church, servant of white American interests, that is, in the African American community, shorn of its African cultural traditions, are bereft of a warrior tradition, mentality, and outlook. Except when called into military service by their white masters, they not only ignore the study and practice of war and of military strategy, but in essence, eschew them. The military and warrior traditions, the martial arts, and military strategic thinking indigenous to African history and culture was lost to the African American community as the result of its deculturation during and after slavery. The patriarchal organization, identification, and cooperation required and imbued by warfare has been lost to the Black community, along with the ability to utilize and apply military-like strategy and military-like organization in non-military arenas. The African American community, though by and large physically separated from the white American and other ethnic communities, especially in the large inner cities across America, is surrounded and economically penetrated by these same groups. It is like a fortress under siege whose walls have been breached at many places and whose foundations are in the process of being raised by its attackers. It stands nearly defenseless against its invaders and is in danger of being completely overrun, captured, and forced to pay an onerous tribute to its captors, to supply labor for their labor camps, and to have most of its able-bodied men interned as prisoners of war. The African American community must recognize that if it cannot achieve its economic and social well-being by the usual legitimate means, then it must achieve them by unusual means. For this community is not obligated to sacrifice its well-being, its children, to ransom its future to any other people in the name of God or man. To ensure its survival and well-being, its full empowerment and liberation, the African American community must not only capture its internal markets, but capture a significant portion of America's national production facilities and markets, and vigorously engage in international trade. To accomplish these necessary goals, the community must painstakingly examine the nature and functionality of its culture and cultural institutions. It must especially examine and revise its family and religious institutions, rebuild and build anew its economic and educational institutions. Of especially great importance, the African American community must train its boys very carefully, intelligently, and intensely for manhood. African American manhood must be redefined in ways which positively redefine the relations of African men and women, their families, and community. Preach, brother. Above all, they must be taught the skills of manly intimacy, honor, cooperation, reliability, and loyalty to community. Woo, talk that talk, sir. They must reassume their role as warriors, defenders of family and community, as assertive and skillful traders, strategic thinkers, and superb tacticians. The power of community is the power of its men and women. It cannot long survive half slave and half free. And with that, I say, Hotep, race first all the time, and at all times, race first. I hope your today was great, and may your tomorrow be greater. Tune in next time here on Omnipotent, the Reading Cipher. Go ahead and check the description, grab those free resources and take advantage of them. And if you will be so kind, if you couldn't donate, I ask that you please like, share, and comment. And if you can donate, may the ancestors return that favor to you 10,000 times over. Ashe, Hotep family.